For those who are in the corporate world, stuck in the matrix, survive the matrix. Give us a few tips about the matrix.
I'm 27 years old. I'm part of the biggest tech acquisition. I almost got fired a couple of times. One of the reasons why Yahoo failed was that the culture didn't produce innovation.
What do you think about the people that would say AI is dumbing us down?
Any technology that came in had the same question. Would it make things easier? People use augmented reality to make their real life richer, not their virtual life.
There's a war of attention happening, right? Everyone's kind of trying to get your attention, all these platforms. Is it actually more fun to keep adding things on top? Or should we kind of like strip things down back to basics?
That's a very difficult one to answer.
My guest is Hussein Freijeh. He is the Vice President and General Manager for the Middle East and North Africa region at Sanaab Inc. Sanaab Inc. is a global media platform with over 900 million users across its platform. Prior to Sanaab, Hussein was the Managing Director for the Middle East, Africa and Turkey at Yahoo, and that was after their acquisition of Maktoub, where Hussein was an early employee and helped shape the platform's growth as a regional director. I'm very excited to have Hussein Freijeh with me. He's going to be talking about his experience as a father. He's a new father, and he's going to be talking about leadership and what it means to build the right culture that will drive innovation in any organization. He's going to talk about embracing the matrix. There's a lot of insights in this conversation. I really hope you enjoy it. I'm very excited that we're doing this. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for the invitation. We've been working on this for some time.
Yeah. So I thought we can start on something that you mentioned to me that was very interesting. The last time I saw you was at Web Summit in Doha. And I asked you, I said, Hussein, what was something that happened recently in your life that changed your life? And I can see the smile. There you go. And you said becoming a father.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a big milestone. And I was just wondering, how was Hussein like pre-fatherhood and how was Hussein like post-fatherhood? Like what did really change, if you have to think about it?
When you say it did change, it might mean that the change happened,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm changed.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's still work in progress. The fatherhood thing. Ahmed is 8 months last week. So it's still in the process of figuring out what is this. So much fun. So it's a magical kind of fun. But I think the Hussein before, you have to cut it into pieces.
Mm-hmm.
I think right before marriage, I would say. I think marriage changes you a lot. Growing up, a lot of us kind of find mentors and look for like stuff on social media to get kind of inspired about leadership and career. A lot of times the repeating a theme that I never wanted to believe or never wanted to buy in is that you need a partner in your life if you want to have a successful career efficiently, or it's easier to have a partner in life. And because I never had one and it was so difficult at that time, I never wanted to believe that idea, like why, what difference it would make.
To have a partner.
To have a partner. I think when I got married, I understood.
How old were
why.
you when you got married? I don't know if we're
43.
allowed to talk about ages
43.
now.
43.
So you
42 actually.
So
Yeah.
you were fully focused on your career.
I think it's a lot. I think it's a lot. I think there's the focus component. You have a dimension. You have a goal in your life. You have somebody who's with you, who you share all the moments, all the difficulties. So, but deep, you get to know yourself in a totally different dimension.
Mm-hmm.
When you're on your own, you think of yourself in a way of what you want to believe. But when you have somebody
Give
with
me
you,
an example.
a lot like stuff. I'm filtering in my head now. I think, how am I in terms of when I think of my daily life,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like how do I prioritize work versus my own personal development, my mental health. When I was on my own, didn't know the difference. Work was mixed with personal life. When you have a partner and you have a life you want to build on as well, you start realizing that you gave no value to your own personal growth. It was all mixed up together. your own, like how moody you are. You wouldn't know that you're really like, I'm a moody person. I didn't know that until I'm 42 years old, because you have somebody with you who's giving you feedback, who's kind of with you on this journey, and it's like a mirror. It's like you start seeing yourself properly in the eyes of people. And with a great partner like the one I have, I think it's amazing when it becomes a development journey for both of us. And then a baby comes in. I think the biggest thing is the two things is the emotion. That emotion you just never felt in your life before. When you started asking the question, I felt like something like went all the way up to my head, because I just left him now and said goodbye and he was screaming at me. That emotion, just you're going deep, deep, deep inside, and that opens up a lot in you. But the other thing that I enjoy a lot now is that sense of you have a goal in life. You have a way bigger task in life than the one I had before, regardless of what I wanted to do in my career or my personal life. Family, and making sure family is healthy, is safe, they're taken care of. That's a goal that gives a whole new dimension to how my life is.
So the pre-baby Hussein was more focused on work completely, not necessarily thinking about himself a lot or his own personal development.
I think when you get to 35, when you start making progress in your career, or you feel confident, because there's a stage where you graduate and you want to do stuff, but you're scared. You don't know you're going to be successful. You see examples of failures, examples of successes. You want to believe the successes that this is going to be you. So you don't know whether you're going to make it or not. At some stage in your career, you know that you have a chance at least. You have a high chance. And every time you get older, you get more experienced, your goals become more achievable and you become smarter in setting goals. So in a lot of times you're able to achieve them if circumstances allows. But at some stage, that career and success becomes useless in a way if they don't feed into something bigger. Okay, why do I want to make money? Why do I want to be successful? I'm successful now. Why do I want more? I think I felt that in the last 5 years before I got married, and then before that we had a baby. I had this silent voice in my head. It was like, okay, I can accelerate further. I can do more. But it was always this voice saying, look, why? Because it takes a toll on you. It's a lot of effort. It's a lot of pain, a lot of reward. But there's that sound. That sound is gone after.
So would you call that purpose?
It is purpose. It is so much love as well.
Okay.
It's like, it's purpose if you want to put a practical terms of it. But it's so much love that you want to give to those people that you call now family. And there's so much protection, safety. And unfortunately, Lulu, like, whether we like it or not, our generation and where we come from, there's always this insecurity about the future that we have.
Yeah, I was gonna get to Lebanon actually.
Yeah, and I think that's built in me since I was a kid, and that insecurity defines us a lot in how we do. As like when you have your first $10,000, you're insecure. You have first 100,000, you're insecure. You have $1 million, you're insecure, because you feel something might happen and it might all go away. And that was fine when you're single, but that scares me now when I have a family. And I think that's something we learn how to live with over time. I don't think it's gonna go away, but that plays a big part.
Did you? I was gonna ask you about Lebanon because you said that having a child basically is changing you, so that we don't say has changed you. So I was wondering, like, how is it for you now versus when you were a child? Like, were you given what you needed vis-a-vis what you're trying to give your son now? Like, how was it back then?
Net, before I answer the question, I believe I'm a very lucky person. I'm so grateful for God first and by my parents and the environment they allowed me to grow within. But the generation before us, the generation where I come from in Lebanon, they had less access to the current access to technology, access to capabilities, education, experiences, social media now, and then consequently, like what's happening with AI. It's a different word than what my parents had. My parents, there are different kinds of parents, but my parents both came from refugee families. My mom and my dad, their fathers were Palestinian, and they actually born in Palestine. Some of my uncles and aunts are born in Palestine, and they were refugees in Lebanon. And
so they came when, in the 48?
in the 48, and they lived refugees for some time. My dad specifically lived in Al-Badawi refugee camp, and Tal Za'atar refugee camp, which is stories I hear about that feel so far, because our generation and us, we were in a whole different world than this. But that contrast is one of my uncles died in the Sabran Shatila, and my cousins. Wow. And my father left to here to UAE, and we lived a different life. We were never exposed to this kind of life except when we were visiting. And that contrast, then we got the Lebanese passport. We became Lebanese. I grew up as a Lebanese. But my mom and dad's accents are Palestinian. We eat the Palestinian mlokhiyeh. Those small details in that contrast in our life made identity always a topic for me till now. And is identity and belonging, especially that Palestine and Lebanon are not like, you're not Australian and you have a German passport. Like both countries have their own set of nuances and pains and love and all those kind of things. And I think that in the beginning was a very painful process growing up as an adult. And that
you grew up in Beirut?
Saida, which is south of Beirut. And then I moved to Beirut, which is like, Saida is more of like a city, like a village. And then Beirut, I went on my own, and I was in this big city, and I was Lebanese. I was actually very active in politics, in Lebanese politics. And in Lebanon, if you're Palestinian, it's like people make sure there's always that you're a Palestinian. But then when we became Lebanese, we are Lebanese with a Palestinian passport. So you never landed somewhere. You're like in between. You're Palestinian, you're Lebanese. And that in between, in the beginning, defined my personality a lot. And in that context, I grew up as a child whose parents never went to university because of that dynamic. Their dream was to put their kids in American universities because this is the gold standard of that. And they worked so hard, and it was so painful to get into Lebanese university. And that I think that dream my father wanted to have for us has a lot to do with him wanting, subconsciously probably, to have a stable home. Stable home is education, is family, is being stable into that, because he didn't have a stable home into that. And I think that contrast is what I live within.
So that clearly shaped you a lot. And so now that you're a father, how do you think about fatherhood? I know I keep going back to this, but I'm trying to try to get you to tell me really, how do you feel about this whole thing? Because I think clearly it meant a lot to you. So I'm trying to see how do you look at it vis-a-vis how you grew up. I mean, I'll tell you an example. So I come from Lebanon as well, right? We also, I mean, I had a different upbringing than you, but we also come from a middle to low income family. So I never really had a lot of abundance in my life when I was growing up. Things weren't given. So it was a struggle. And also, in my household, I think we weren't really, I don't think I got a lot of love. I think this is the first time I say this on a microphone. But when my kids were born, Because you mentioned the word love, right? And to me, that was such a key word, because that's what my kids taught me. The way I love them is, I haven't loved like this before, you know? So, but it kind of also makes me go back to, the lack of love, let's say, that that I got.
Yeah, I relate a lot to that. Like,
so I'm trying to understand your
totally,
background.
Like, first of all, like, if while you were talking, the emotions that I was thinking of are, I don't know if it's love. It's a kind of like love. Like, it's an emotion, a new set of emotions. But then there's responsibility. Then there's purpose. Then there is progress. Like, if you think what we just talked about is like how my grandfather, who left his home because he wanted his family to be safe. He didn't leave home for his own purpose.
Yeah.
And net, like, his family were safe regardless of the circumstances. He wanted them to be safe, but he wanted better for his family. Then my father was in refugee camp growing up, but he wanted better, so he came here. And he did what he did.
He came here?
He came to Dubai. Yeah, he came to Dubai in the 70s.
Oh, okay.
That's why we lived in a different environment. And then my father, all what he wanted to do, he wanted to get us to a good education. Because to him, that was a generation progress that he wanted to have. I'm lucky, and as I said in the beginning, that I lived in that environment and I'm here. Now, my son, subconsciously and consciously, is about progress. Is about what I want to provide to him that makes our generation and this generation supportive what he will be at when he's my age. Now, funny enough, he's still 8 months. Me and my wife talk about a million things. It's like his school. Are we doing homeschooling? Are we doing proper schooling? Are we doing... Because we're thinking about it subconsciously in many cases. It drives this, but I think progress takes a lot of the thinking when I think of fatherhood now.
What do you think about homeschooling?
I'm very curious about it.
Yeah.
I can't say I was bullied when I'm in school, but I didn't like school. I didn't like funny enough, I was telling somebody 2 days ago, I have so much empathy for people who join Snab first day. Like, I find them and I make sure I go, I say hi, I make them feel comfortable. I keep actually every other day I go to them and say, how are you doing, etc. Because to me, I correlated to the first day at school. Yeah. I think I had a terrible first day at school. And that's why I link it together. Okay. And I feel like those guys are coming in, they know nobody. They barely know their manager, which is like crazy. And then they're just trying to, like, who do I have lunch with? There's a lot of successes that we hear about with homeschooling. We're still very early stage, but deep inside, it feels like a good one.
Yeah.
Still, how do you connect them socially? Make sure that they're not isolated is one thing, but it's still early for us. We have time.
Yeah, I think about it a lot, by the way. That's why I asked you. And I know someone who's homeschooling 2 kids, their kids. So I think it's interesting, like, giving your kids the choice. Like, they have to learn some of the basics, but you give them the choice to actually focus on things that they enjoy doing and that they love.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, it makes so much sense.
So maybe we should do something, Hussein.
Yeah.
How about, I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who are contemplating this.
The number of people I know who are doing homeschooling are increasing.
Really?
So it says something. I think now with AI and how the impact of technology in education, hopefully there's a kind of a milestone where this becomes way more popular. But again, like, we feel lucky. We have time.
How do you think realistically AI will impact education? Like, I mean, realistically, because there's a lot of talk about, okay, how things are going to change and so on, but...
It already does, mildly. But I think if you think of...
Because, like, my kids have tablets now in school. They all have, I mean, it's not AI, right? But they all, like, my son is 6, my daughter is 8. They have tablets at school. They do a lot on computers.
Very soon they're going to have spectacles.
Very soon they're going to have spectacles.
And glasses.
Yeah.
Listen, I think if you take a step back on AI, what AI is doing, and what we're hoping will keep doing over time as technology and beyond technology, the applications becomes way more advanced. It's going to unlock again the creativity with this generation. I think being creative goes in our previous generation and this generation goes through a lot of friction. As well, it's taken a back seat a little bit.
What do you mean it goes through a lot of friction?
There's one time when I was in a previous job, one of our CEOs said something that I never understood until very recent. She said the opposite of creativity is execution.
Mm-hmm.
Many times we would be in meetings internally at Snap, and we would come up with a brilliant idea, like that idea that you feel right away it's an amazing idea.
Yeah.
People's eyes spark when we come up with the idea, and then it's so interesting how the moment we start talking about how to do it, you see how that spark and excitements go down, and eventually it dies out.
Yeah.
Right, and that is the nature of creativity, because if creativity is easy, everybody would have been creative. The reason why it's difficult, it's because execution takes over, and there's a lot of complexities in how you do those kind of things. AI will help with that. I think
it will simplify.
It will
execution.
simplify. It will buy you time for you to be able to focus more when you're creative. I've been spending a lot of time on using AI in day-to-day stuff. Yes, it's helping me do stuff that I used to do before, like writing something or thinking of a speech, but then I'm reinvesting this time into making whatever I'm working on way more creative. It's giving me time to do that. And I can't help but think of education to be the biggest beneficiary of something like that. It's like we all grew up in this very intense education system where you just like write stuff and think, and then I think like giving back time to be creative and allowing people to express themselves in different ways, I think will be a very, very exciting thing to see.
What do you think about the people that would say AI is dumbing us down? So like you're heavily reliant on ChatGPT, you're not really using your brain to think about stuff. You're just basically becoming heavily reliant on these tools. So are you really exercising your critical thinking? Is it really helping or eventually we're gonna all become senile?
I think like if you think about it, it's like AI is more impactful. It's gonna be more impactful in our lives than probably any other technology we've seen. But any technology that came in had the same question: would it make things easier for people, like us having a smartphone with internet and all those apps on it? And the difference is that I think is in the human being, is like, are they curious enough? Are they ambitious enough? And how are they going to use this technology? If you're going to take this technology and have it write your emails and do your documents and do your assignments or do your presentations and that's it, yes, it will dump you down. But if you're going to use this AI to write 80% of what you want to, whatever strategy you want to put on, but then you want to invest those 20% to make the strategy 10x better, because you saved hours of building those 80%, and then making you're going to be smarter. It's going to open up new ways and massive opportunities for you, and it's going to make you way more competitive. The ideas you're going to come up with are going to be way more impactful. So it depends how we use it, and I think that has been the same since internet came up.
I think anyway, I think people that say that like you're probably conflating ChatGPT with AI, but they're different, right? I mean, ChatGPT is one application of how you can use artificial intelligence, but artificial intelligence basically
way wider,
is way more than ChatGPT.
And we see it at Snap. Like you look at Snap now and how AI is impacting us. We have a chatbot, My AI, in chat. Yeah, an amazing tool.
It's ChatGPT powered, right?
It's OpenAI powered.
Okay.
But we made it more customized to our community. So because Snap is a place where you talk to your friends and family, My AI comes in, you could invite it to your chat with your friend and chat with it both
So
of you
now
could
we need
tell.
AI to talk to our family.
I mean, like, if I'm arguing with you on something, or hey, you wanna watch a movie, and then you go like, what movie? And we're like, hey, my, what do you think we should watch? It could be fun. Like, there's a
okay.
lot of use cases where you make it so much fun. And then you look at our augmented reality experiences, how Gen AI massively kind of impacted how we produce, the time, the automation, but the quality of our augmented reality experiences. Then you look at Gen AI video production and how we generate videos now, all the way to how we automating our processes on trust and safety and content moderation.
Mm-hmm.
So like, you're right, my AI is that ChatGPT like component, but no, the business is massively impacted across all sectors.
I want to bring us back to your daily habit. So you are very successful in societal standards. You run the regional offices for a global company. How do you what are some of the daily habits that you've cultivated that make you operate at this level?
It's a work in progress. The intensity of work in Dubai and in this part of the work increased massively in the last couple of years. It's a reflection of what's happening around us, a massive transformation. We are at the heart of that transformation. Snapchat is really popular in this part of the world, and the intensity is increasing. And having a family is a new dimension to making sure that you wanna balance. I think over time, what I'm realizing, there are a set of things that when I do, I'm able to have a better balance, not that balance. And I realize that I will never have the balance. One day you're focused here, one day you're focused there. And then the earlier you realize that, it makes things way easier. Your workout, your physical health, the way you eat, the way you sleep, plays a big role in how I feel. But then there's the mental part. The mental part is something that we never, growing up, it was a taboo to talk about the mental side of things and how life impacts your mental health. I think that's something that, especially when you get to your 40s, you have a lot of big questions, you have a lot of things you're thinking about. I think that late I realized how important is that finding those moments to check in with yourself. Breathing, just how simple is that? It's just taking the time to breathe, taking the time to be grateful, goes a long way. Sometimes, like when your brain is all over the place, just stopping and just counting a couple of things you're grateful for, that you're lucky you have, makes a big difference. So I have those small tactics that talking, and back to the topic of partner, just letting things out of your head takes away a lot of that pressure you feel. But as well, like knowing when to sprint and when to slow down. We have to, like, this idea of like work-life balance. At the moment I tried, it never worked. But now what I do is I intentionally sprint and I intentionally slow down, and I try as much as I can. I think I found that balance with it. Finally, I think routine is important, whatever that is like having a routine, knowing, like having some sort of predictability in your life, but as well in your day-to-day. At that age is it makes a big difference. One thing I'm struggling with still is how do I wind down. It's like when I'm done with the day, it takes me time to wind down, and that's something I'm trying to figure out.
To fall asleep, you mean?
Wind down, like your brain is wired.
Yeah.
Your nervous system is all over the place at the end of the day. You had probably 5 to 8 meetings. You had a lot of and then sometimes you travel. So when you come home and you sit on the couch, you can't just kind of shut down.
Yeah.
You're still like doing this.
Do you work at night?
I am, yeah. I mean, as a global company, when you're American company, you always have those late night calls. You organize around them, but that email, the phone, social media as well. Like, it's not only work. It's like you're wired, but then even if you're not working, you want to consume stuff. You want to do something. So that's the routine I'm trying now. I'm doing a lot of tests. Like, sometimes I go to work out after work. Sometimes I go for a walk. I'm trying to find breathing. What's my routine to help me wind down?
Good. I think that's important. I want to know what the secret is, because I have a similar issue. It takes me a long time to be able to relax and to fall asleep as well.
Yeah.
Actually, when I lie on the bed, it's when all the ideas come. It's like, oh my God, I'm trying to sleep. Why am I thinking about this now?
Yeah, one of the funny things I tried is doing a massage to try to wind down. It's the worst thing.
Really?
Because you go lie down on this bed and your
thinking...
head goes crazy, but you can't move, you can't do anything, you can't touch your phone, you can't act on it.
Yeah.
So it was a terrible idea.
Yeah. Anyway, expensive one as well. If
Yeah,
you're gonna get a massage every night before you go to sleep. If I were to ask your team, how would they describe you as a leader?
Oh, that's a very difficult one to answer
Yeah.
because they're gonna hear what I'm gonna say, and
Yeah.
so I cannot make it up. I think they would say that I do a lot of effort to like go deep and get that creativity and to push to the limit to like of what we can do, which is great because it's creativity and pushing the limit, but the process could be sometimes painful, but I make sure in parallel they are seeing the benefit both professionally and personally. I think that I learned that early on, like thinking of what kind of leader I am. As a leader, you have so much responsibility to the people who you lead. That responsibility goes in multidimension into helping them understand what winning is, what's the mission, what are we part of, what are we working so hard for. That's a responsibility of the leader to define and help people see, and then helping them see the how we're gonna get there, so that they see their role in that. Okay, so what I'm doing now is helping this thing that will get us to win. And then this process goes all the way to the end where what's in it for me? How this is gonna, okay, if the company succeeds and we do this winning thing, what am I benefiting from? Like, does this help my personal agenda, my personal growth into that? And I think a leader who pushes hard for creativity and with that comes a price of maybe hard work or struggle, creative struggle. It has to be balanced out with something I take back as a reward or recognition, all the way to personal development. I think I want to be that kind of leader. I try hard. I don't know if I'm there yet, but that's the kind of leader I would want to be.
It's challenging. I feel like, I mean, if you are an entrepreneur, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about because you had your part of your journey was obviously you worked with one of the biggest success stories at the time in a tech startup, Maktoub. But I think as an entrepreneur, I feel you're able to be mission driven. You're able to push people. I mean, I've had Mudassir Sheikha here is the CEO of Kareem. I mean, it's a company that's like really mission driven, really as well. Like everybody's working super hard towards achieving that. But I feel that, can you do that as part of a big organization like Snap, for example? I mean, it must be a challenge.
At Snap, it is easy because of what Snapchat is and the Snap Inc. organization. Snap is when I joined Snap, the company was very small at that time, still small in comparison to the big players. The Middle East region is a very big region for Snap. Like if you look at the Middle East region for majority of the big platforms, you see Middle East probably in the top 10, 15. You will never see them top 5, rarely. MENA is top 5 for Snap and really big and really impactful as a business. And that allowed us to be close to anything at Snap internally. Evan, probably knows, Evan, our founder, knows people by name, a lot of people by name in the Dubai office. And I think when I joined Snap as well, I was the first employee.
Here in the region.
So I was like, literally, there was nobody, there was no office. They hired me and we did everything. So that gave me a lot of entrepreneurial kind of, it was a startup still. I was starting up a startup here, and I was lucky to go to that journey with the team, and that allowed me to feel the entrepreneurship and play it. Now, my entrepreneurship experience in building Snap from scratch, same as Maktoub. I was employee number 2 in the Dubai office with Maktoub, and we went through the journey with the team till it got acquired with Yahoo. it's a bit different between when you're part of a startup journey, but you're not the founder. So you have to believe.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. It's so painful, the process, and you know it. It's like, it looks rosy from outside. The Maktub experience wasn't rosy most of the time. There was a lot of struggles, and when I think of what Samih and Hussam went through the experience, and with me being close to that, it's a struggle. For them, it's their dream, it's their baby. For me, you always have to check in with yourself and believe it. Sometimes you lose that. You're human. Sometimes you're tired. Your mental state is not in the right place. So there's always this constant thing about you're an entrepreneur, you're senior, so you're acting like you own it. And we do in a way. But you have to always make sure that your belief is still intact in the mission. Because if you don't, it will show. I always tell people, like, you could fake it, you could not show it, you could say, okay, I'm going to be here for a year or two, but it will show. If you don't believe in the mission, it will show. I think that makes it a little bit different from other experiences and other founders.
So for you, you feel because Snap is slightly entrepreneurial, it's still relatively not as big as the global giants. If you think about like social media, you feel that there's, and that because you were here as the first employee starting the offices in this region, you feel it's still a little bit entrepreneurial. So you're able to lead people based on a
mission. Snap is entrepreneurial already now. It's still, although we're big and we have like 900 million people that go to Snap every month. That's a big community, a big platform.
Yeah, but if you compare it like from a market cap as a company, if you compare it to like a Meta or a Google,
exactly. So
it's relatively
what
small.
Makes Snapchat very entrepreneurial now is what I was always inspired with. Snap never did things because this is what the industry is. When Snap was created, a lot of people labeled it because if you don't use it, you would never know. You would label it as a social media. Mm-hmm. But actually, Snapchat, when you talk to Evan, it's actually believe it's an antidote to social media. It's the opposite of what social media is. And we always did some stuff different, and always people told us, oh, that's crazy. It doesn't make sense. And it ended up being right.
Copied.
Right, and copied in many cases. When messages started to disappear, like when we had this ephemeral messaging, people are like, what is this? Like, we're used to text messages and on social media. But now a lot of platforms are doing that. Stories, the vertical format, augmented reality. In a way, we bet on augmented reality early on as a way to enrich people's communication. Visual communication, communicating with pictures.
Yeah.
We always like text is the way we communicate. And this idea of it. So because we do things differently, we always have to like do more work to get the mission out, to get people to understand what we're all about and how that mission pans out to impact us. Now, if you operate in MENA, it's a very fun thing to do because in countries like Saudi or UAE or Qatar or Bahrain, GCC, we don't have to explain the mission. People know it. And many times, like we have those narratives in the company where we practice, we come up with, you have to have a consistent narrative. We start the narrative talking to a partner or an advertiser or a creator. They stop us halfway. And you're like, okay, we know. This is how we use Snapchat. So that's so much fun to see that vision and mission really in action in this part of the world.
So let's talk a little bit about, and we're going to come back to Snapchat, but let's talk a little bit about your Maktub experience, because I was very interested to learn from your experience from the point of view of an employee in a startup, because I always talk to founders here. So I think it was very interesting for you to share that point of view, even though you were very early on in the journey. How do you convince yourself to put in all the hard work that is needed in a startup environment, and what made you stick through it?
If you go back to what we just talked about the role of a leader, the first thing I said is you really have to articulate the vision and what you really want to get, and help people understand what winning is, and all the way to what's their role in that. Samih and Hussam were amazing in that.
So Samih and Hussam are the founders
Samih,
of
Tukan,
Maktub.
Hussam Khouri, the founders of Maktub. They were very relatable leaders. They're not the kind of like when I joined, they were just about to get their first big funding from Abraj Capital. I think it was $4 million, and at that time it was really big. It was probably like 2005. Yeah, 2005, and that funding would have taken Maktoub to the next level, and they were relatable. Their energy was contagious in terms of how committed they are, but as well they didn't hide. They didn't make it rosy. They didn't make, oh, everything's great, like don't worry about it, everything's great. They showed like they were vulnerable. They showed the difficulty. They shared, and then by default automatically they make you feel, and they not made you feel, we were similar to them in that process. It wasn't about money. I didn't make a lot of money personally from Maktoub. I was very young at that time. I didn't understand what stocks is. But to me, it was like I wanted to be part of that. This is way bigger than just a job or money or anything. This is like we are gonna be the first. At that time, we didn't think much of acquisitions for majority of the time. We thought about it towards the end when Maktoub became mature. But we were like very impact. We were up against MSN Arabia and big platforms, and we were doing very well. So I think Hussam and Samih did a really good job in doing that. There was one time, back to the topic of sharing what they went through. They were in the office. Our office was double the size of this room, and I shared a desk. It was me, Samih and Hussam had a desk, and Ronnie from Souk had a desk, because at that time Souk was part of Maktoub, and they left. They were talking, and they left, and they were at the elevator, and I left after them, and I found them in the elevator. Like, I looked at them. They were pale. They were like very, very anxious, and I laughed. I was like, "What's wrong, guys?" She's like, "We just took a decision, and let's hope it's going to be the right decision." That was a decision to take the Abraj Capital money, because and I saw how stressed they were in that day. So I think those experiences, a lot of them happened, and it made us feel all part of that journey.
So for those who are listening that are not familiar with Maktoub, what did Maktoub do at the time? Can you just tell us?
So Maktoub started as an Arabic email. At that time, you couldn't, when email came up, you couldn't send an email in Arabic. Keyboards didn't have an Arabic keyboard. So Maktoub came in with this virtual keyboard concept, and people could type the email. And sometimes we were sending stickers you can put on the keyboard to be able to type an email. And that was a massive thing, especially for people who abroad emailing their family. Some journalists were using it from outside. So it grew into a content platform. We had a chat service. We had Souk, which is an e-commerce play like eBay at that time. And we grew it through acquisition and through a lot of hard work into one of the biggest, if not the biggest, portals at that time, we called them. And it got acquired by Yahoo. It got acquired by Yahoo. I think it was I forgot the number. It was $170 million, which was the biggest and the first big acquisition. And that acquisition opened up the whole ecosystem for tech in the region, because first of all, it opened the eyes on the MENA region, but as well, the investors of Maktoub went on and became like Samih and Fadi Ghandour and all of them were investors in other companies and had the right experience.
How did it feel to you when internally they announced that Yahoo was gonna buy Maktoub? Sorry.
It's not announced because I was part of that due diligence thing. So it was actually, I remember it always. So it was a long period. It was probably like months, maybe 4 to 6 months of due diligence. They went.
So you're talking to the Yahoo team and trying to see if.
Talking to the Yahoo team, we're so excited. Ahmed Nasif was my manager at that time, and it was like you're like somebody's like. Success was the Yahoo acquisition for us, and I've been working so hard on it for years, and it's being dangled there, and it's there, but you can't touch it because you have this due diligence thing that might go wrong, by the way, but things are looking positive. The Yahoo team was very friendly, so it was a painful process with due diligence until it happened. But when it happened, it was such a proud moment. Till now, I see how it impacted that. It's not only about the Yahoo deal was the deal that opened the market for other investors. It allowed investors of Maktub to invest.
Yeah.
But as well as important, you go around now, you find those people who worked with Maktub and Yahoo everywhere. So those people became leaders,
Yeah.
tech leaders in the current business. So how this deal impacted the economy, the tech economy here, is something that I keep reminded of every day.
Yeah, I've had Ronaldo Mshahwar here on the
Yep.
on the podcast, and he talked about his journey with Su, but we also touched on the Maktub journey. So, but how did you feel about it?
I mean, for me, it was a lot of emotions at that time. A lot of those emotions I couldn't understand, because coming from a country like Lebanon, with my profile, we didn't have that startup ecosystem. We weren't involved in what happened in the US a lot, so I didn't understand fully until later what that meant. But it was a lot of pride. We've seen Samir Hussam going around to see Sheikh Mohammed and getting recognition, the King of Jordan, and all the the social media. Everybody was talking about it. And at that time, I knew that was really big. But as well, when you look at the impact of it, and I was so excited about going to Yahoo without an interview. I always felt insecure for sometimes, like, will I be accepted at Yahoo if I interviewed normally without being part of an acquisition? So coming into Yahoo, for somebody like me, such a global company, remember, there was not a lot of people from Facebook. I don't think there were any people from Facebook at that time, 2009, or Google. It wasn't a normal thing to work for a global tech company, except you go for an IBM or an Oracle or something. But the new wave of tech platforms, and that was so much excitement. But I think the biggest kind of benefit I had is that feeling of confidence and assurance that I'm on track. I'm 27 years old. I'm part of the biggest tech acquisition in the region. And that gave me assurance that I'm actually in the right place, in the right industry. And it gave me so much confidence for the next journey at Yahoo, which was very painful in the beginning, unexpectedly. And I think that experience from Maktub to Yahoo shaped a lot of who I am as an executive or a professional.
Okay. Tell us more. Why was it so painful initially? Like, what adjustments did you have to make?
I think if I take a step back before I talk about it, like in the Middle East, like either Lebanon or Jordan or Egypt or here, when we go to school and when we do university, there's not a lot of preparation for... I think that the current schooling system is improving, but I think maybe a generation before, we don't get prepared a lot for real life experiences, for what a job is. You go to school, you study. You could have a GPA of 3.8, but have absolutely no clue about how the job life is.
Yeah.
If you're an AUB or LEU in Lebanon, which are the best universities, you do internship for like 3 months, and in the majority of the cases, you talk to somebody, and then it's fine.
Yeah.
And then, so coming into the job market, we didn't have a lot of prep on what would you face, what is a work environment, what's leadership, what is commitment, what is a job beyond money and career. We didn't have a lot of clarity. We didn't have mentors. Like now, I like it so much when a lot of young people call me and they want to have a mentorship session with me once every month or once every quarter. Young people out of college. We never had that. And we never had the comfort of going to a friend and asking for help. It was all like not something we're used to. So coming into this, there was a lot of pride. Oh, we just sold Maktub, and I was part of, I was in the leadership team, and I'm coming in, we succeeded. We were like, but then Yahoo is a corporate. It's a matrix organization. Decisions are made in a matrix environment. Before, at best, I used to pick up the phone and call Ahmed or Samih, and 90% of the time, I would get what I want if I make a good case. In a company like Yahoo, first of all, you're a small region in a very big world. And for Yahoo, we're like number 14 in the ranking of size, community, and revenue. And every decision you want to make, you make now. There's a protocol, there's a matrix, there's a framework you have to go through. And I'm 27. and I've been in Maktoub, which is like a startup company.
And you were setting up Yahoo as well here for the region?
So I was in charge of the commercial side. So Ahmed was the managing director, focused on product and content, and I was setting up the commercial part of Yahoo. And that's all our revenue sources, which was majority of it was
right?
ads. And ads, you want to do deals, you want to do partnerships, you want to hire. If you want to hire somebody you like and you believe in, you have to have a panel, and then you have, if two people in the panel say no, even if you're the hiring manager. I didn't understand that. Like, wow, I'm the hiring manager. So those kind of things, I resisted it and I hated it. And it's a game that you have to understand so you'll be successful. I didn't understand that's a game. I was young. And I went through a very difficult year and a half. I almost got fired a couple of times. And what I appreciate a lot. I did.
Why almost?
Because I wasn't eventually.
Yeah, but how did you save yourself from getting fired?
I didn't actually. It was if I kept doing what I'm doing, I would have been fired for sure.
So you course corrected.
But I was not intentionally. So I didn't have enough to course correct on my own.
Okay.
So I think I benefited a lot. Ahmed Nasif was a great mentor as a manager. That is one. Yahoo was good when it comes to leadership support. And as well, I have to say, like, there wasn't a lot of people in my role in the region anyways. You want a head of commercial, like it would, if they fired me, it would have been very easy to find somebody. So they decided to invest in me. What they did, they gave me an executive coach, and which I stayed in touch with for 8 years after.
Wow.
And then they gave me the head of Spain at that time at Yahoo was bored. He's been with Yahoo a lot. And they told him, like, listen, we have this guy there. He's amazing. He's brilliant. He's pretty messy, out of startup. Can you go help him? And he came for 6 months, Roberto. He came for 6 months. He was my mentor. He sat with me. He had exactly my role at Yahoo in Spain. And he's been with Yahoo a lot of time. So I had this kind of system, a support system around me that helped me kind of find out how success will look like and what do I need to do. And after that experience, it was transformative. I understood how corporate works. I understood the matrix, and I actually started to enjoy it. And fast forward to a week ago, somebody in the team asked me, because we have like 130 people in the team here at Snap, and not all of people report to me. It's a matrix organization. And a colleague of mine was like, don't you hope that everybody reports to you? I was like, no way.
Yeah.
There's a point how this works, and I enjoy it a lot now because it could be very successful if you understand how that
the
operates.
matrix.
Yep.
Okay. Give us a few tips about the matrix for those who are in the corporate world, stuck in the matrix.
I think first of all,
survive the matrix.
No, I think listen, a lot of companies work in a matrix organization and didn't change, and there's a reason why. The matrix, the idea of a matrix.
The matrix means, let's clarify, means there's a hierarchy, right?
The matrix means you work in a matrix organization where your priorities are in a matrix. So if you're a marketeer in a Dubai office, your priorities are influenced by your leader, probably in London or Singapore or somewhere, and your local stakeholders and leadership in the MENA region. Mm-hmm. So that is...
So you report to two different people?
Yeah, like you align with two different organizations. Now, somebody coming from a startup, what is this? Why do I need to do this and that? I work for MENA. Yeah. MENA is important. Why do I have to go with the EMEA or APA or Asia or whatever emerging market at that time? I think the beauty of this, if done well, is as a marketeer, you get to benefit from very rich, diverse expertise across the globe. Mm. So if you have a challenge or a problem as a marketeer or a salesperson, you're able to connect very easily with somebody in Mexico or Brazil or Japan, or where you might have the same or might be inspired by that. But at the same time, you're able to connect with your local experience as well. If you fight it and resist it, it's just going to be like, oh my God, it's going to be multi-prioritization. I think prioritization is the key, is making sure that people sit and have the right and tough conversations early on to make sure that everybody understand what do they need to do
But
about
who?
a certain
This is
challenge.
whose responsibility? The employee or the
Everybody's
manager?
responsibility, but it starts with the leadership. Back to the point of setting up what the mission is for the operation you lead on or you operate is a starting point for everybody. In the Snap office here, before the end of year, we make sure we are very clear of what the region, wherever you report to, this is our priorities as a region. This is what winning will look like. In that, there's no matrix. We sit as one team and talk about that. Once we finish that work, we go each team define what is their role to help that vision. Here, you're still not talking matrix. We're still talking as a team. And then from there onward, you start going to your global organization and see how they can help. What is it we need to bring here? And then we start that conversation. That conversation could be very smooth and could be very difficult, but we have it. At the end of that conversation, we end up with priorities set. Once priorities are set, it doesn't matter where you report to. It doesn't matter what structure are you operating within, because that's what success will look like for you.
So to survive the matrix, first you have to reframe it in your mind in the sense that this is a support network that I can access at any point. Basically, the alignment with different people across the business.
So I think the starting point is you have
How
to
did
stop
you
calling
survive
it survive.
You're at the top of the matrix, okay? Let's reframe the question. You did it at Yahoo. You're doing it now at Snap. Like, what are your tips? What makes you successful in what you do? How have you've been in these jobs for a long time, so it's not like you're jumping around.
Yeah, I think it goes back to why am I here and what success looks like. I think going back to the matrix, I think you have to, at any single time in your career, you have to understand where you are in a journey and what that journey takes to be successful. Sometimes we go so fast. We don't think, we don't stop, we don't slow down into why am I feeling this way? Why am I so... That's what happened to me at Yahoo. Like, I'm so frustrated. I'm so... Like, I don't understand it. Like, what is this? Why are we operating this way? This is crazy. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. But I never spent time to slow down to ask the question, why this is set up? And I did what you did, right? I called it, how can I survive it? As long as I'm in survival mode, it's very difficult for me to get out of it. But the moment I start realizing and finding why this is important and embracing it, I think this solves a big part of the problem. The other big part of the problem that helps a lot is really being open to kind of failing and getting feedback and giving feedback. And that process helps a lot in that evolution and progress. Again, I go back to our generation and where we come from. We don't like to take feedback, and we think giving feedback is too much headache, right? So that's another round of progress that I had to go through at Yahoo. When I was used to get feedback, I'm sure a lot of people relate to that. We leave that meeting room and say, like, this guy doesn't know what they're doing. Yeah. Like, oh, and then you start giving excuses of why we did what we did. But when you start being okay with getting feedback and eventually liking it, because it's a journey, I think your personal development journey evolves. So to summarize, it's embracing it, not calling survival, embracing it and calling it what it is, which is a very effective tool if used properly. But then that iterative process of feedback, I think solves majority of the problems.
Okay. So embracing the matrix.
Embracing it, yeah. It's there's a reason why it's there. And global companies are smart companies. And if it's not working, they will change it.
Yeah. I mean, they operate differently, right? I mean, if you're I think there's two ways to look at it. If you're in a big company, the consensus is that, you know, you're stable, you're successful, but also you're not necessarily as fast and not as innovative. And I think maybe those matrices that you have slow down and maybe could hinder speed and hinder innovation. So I think it's a matter of figuring out what you stand for as a business and what you want to achieve. I think if you want to be fast and agile and innovative, you definitely need the startup, the entrepreneurial mentality, you know, of like, we always have this famous saying of Facebook, when Facebook was started, Mark Zuckerberg saying basically, go fast and break things. So I think not, obviously they can't do that now at the size that they are, right? But I think there's a trade-off between like innovation speed and then being like a very big corporate that does things in certain ways. And I think, by the way, that's why a lot of the big companies end up acquiring these startups, so that they can inject some of that entrepreneurship DNA basically into the company.
I think the stage the company is at makes a big difference as well. So you're right. Theoretically, if I compare two models, yes, of course, that's a little bit slower than other. But I think the way you operate a company makes a big difference. So at Yahoo, it was, and then probably that's the reason why Yahoo failed, because Yahoo couldn't be innovative, because the structure we operated within at that time didn't allow the company to evolve. But when I look at how Snap is operated now, we have a matrix organization. We are operating across multiple countries in the world, but decision making actually and innovation is still there. If it's something about Snap that is making us really like moving forward and progressing, it's innovation. We're kind of the factory of innovation of our industry, and we still did that in that structure. I think the way the leadership operates makes a big difference in how this structure is impacting innovation. I think there's styles, and I think Snap style, in a way, allowed us to stay innovative and fast.
So when Yahoo shut down, you were part of the shuttering down of the offices, right?
Yeah.
So how was that experience actually? Not many people go through these experiences. I mean, you went through an acquisition from startup to corporate to leading their regional team to shutting it down after what, 6 years, I think, or so?
2009 to 2014. Yeah.
14, okay, 5 years.
5 years.
So how was that process on you?
Oh, very emotionally draining, and it was probably the most difficult career period I had.
How many were you?
Like, probably it was gradual. Like, it was 6 months to 9 months of, like, we knew something is happening. We're like, when somebody resigns, you can't backfill. We had small kind of reductions in workforces, so the team started. We at Yahoo, I think at some stage we were like 400 people, and I think at the end we're like 40, 50 people. To imagine like how we're closing offices, etc. I think like that experience helped me understand a lot how important culture and who you hire is in the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought it with me to Snap. When I came to Snap, I had this. I'm grateful and lucky to be given the opportunity to go to a new role. That's exactly the same role I had for the last 5-6 years and even before, but do it with a company that's 100 times more fun. Because at that time, Snap was the talk of the town. Here, it was exploding in Saudi and UAE and parts of the MENA region. So, and I was the employee number one. So I got the chance I made a lot of mistakes at Yahoo. I was young. And I got the chance to redo it again, but with a brand that is way more fun. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I made a promise to myself that I will never compromise on culture and hiring people. One of the things I see a lot of leaders do, and I did that at the Yahoo time, is they prioritize fast hiring over good hiring. They prioritize CV over values. And what that brings to you is a lot of disconnect between people on the values that they share. And that I saw that in the shutdown of Yahoo. I saw how culture broke and how we would simply had a lot of bad hiring. And that all came out when things were difficult. A lot of people tell me...
In what way?
So culture in a company it's one of those things that are talked a lot about, but nobody really think of what is culture. Yes. In an organization. People think of culture as, we connect very well. Everybody are friends. We go out, we eat together, we go for paddle together. People are happy coming in. But culture is way, way, way more than people connecting. Culture is what is the collective output of many people sitting together. And that output is in terms of your own personal gain when you sit in that office. When you sit in that office and you talk to people, how much do you grow? How much do you feel supported? Are people bringing you down when you're successful? When you fail, are people pushing you up? How's that culture impacting the product that you're creating? How's culture impacted when you talk to a partner? Does the partner notice a difference when they talk to you versus another company? And it goes on and on and on. I think leaders a lot, and it's becoming a very important topic now and more talked about than it used to be before. And Yahoo, one of the reasons why Yahoo failed was that the culture didn't produce innovation. People weren't together, and then there's a lot of other reasons. But I think coming into Snap, I realized how important is that. When we were shutting down, I saw people, how they started disconnecting. It was a tough time for everybody. How some of the people, not all of them, there were a lot of great people. Some of the people just started bringing others down, became toxic. And that was like, at some stage I was sitting like, oh my God, what did I do? And the great people were trying to bring it together in the organization. So coming into Snap, one of the things that I still do till now, even though we're a big team, 3 offices, I probably still interview 95% of the people coming in. Not because I don't trust the team, but it's because I want to be with the team and make those decisions. When you bring somebody to your organization, to your culture, you're bringing somebody that's not only a colleague who you'll see an hour or 2 a day, it's somebody you're going to interact with, you collaborate with, etc. So that's very important. And as well, how we protect culture is something that we talk about a lot.
I feel like with hiring, one of the most important things to me is to know that this person coming in will have your back.
Yep.
That you can depend on this person, that they're going to be accountable, that they're going to do what they're supposed to be doing. And yeah, most importantly is for them to have your back.
Early on, it was so much excitement. Till now, we have this really nice vibe in the office with people. People tell me, oh, Hussein, you have a great culture. And I always tell them, tell me we have a great culture when things are difficult.
Yeah.
Like when things are good, everything is good.
Yeah. Absolutely.
When things get very difficult, that's where the right test of culture.
It unravels who people are.
Exactly.
Difficult times.
Exactly. And we did that. We had tough times. And during COVID, when COVID hit, even business-wise, right after COVID, we had very difficult time at Snap and in MENA. And it was a good test to how people are. And I'm really proud of the team and how they managed that process.
So what's really exciting for you at Snap at the moment? What's happening?
I think it's always fun to see how a vision and a mission that 13 years ago people say, oh, it would be fine, it would be like a short-term thing, and how this is becoming across the globe. We just announced in our latest earning that we have 900 million people who come to Snap. That's a big number. Soon, like, we're on very kind of sharp path to 1 billion people on the platform. And we did that without having to deviate from our core mission, even though it was so much pressure. I think early on at Snap, it would have been so easy to be just a social media company, right? And do what everybody else has been doing. But we chose the tough road. We stayed committed to that mission of staying focused on empowering people's communication with their friends and family.
So it's a communications company?
It is.
Or I saw when I was researching, like ahead of this interview, I was like trying to see how does Snap basically sees itself, and to me it looked like a camera company. I saw that you see yourself as a camera business.
So Snap's core use case is communicating with the people you love, friends and family, and you do that with the richest way a technology could allow you to do. So the whole mission, the whole idea is we need to create a messaging service that brings you as close as possible to real life communication. So it makes so much difference when you wake up in the morning and you want to text your mom that you love her. It makes so much difference when you do that through the camera with a nice lens over it than saying I love you to her and to you.
Is it?
It is. It is, and we see it in the engagement, at least for the new generation.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, yeah.
And it makes so much difference when you're with your kid playing with those augmented reality experiences. We see it in the numbers. The moment you use it, it's addictive. I feel so weird communicating on text now. Many times when my wife, because I communicate a lot on Snap, obviously, my wife say, "Where are you?" on WhatsApp, and the immediate thing I want to do, I want to take a picture and tell her where I am. That's how I'm used to now. It's so much fun. I think that's the mission we stayed on. We couldn't monetize it. We just recently started allowing brands to be in the chat, but we stayed committed to that, and that paid a lot of dividends over time because it made the community happier, because you're still talking to we didn't go through this social media challenges of being so performant. Everything is measured, likes, shares, that unmoderated feed, and all those kind of things became kind of defined what social media is now. We weren't part of that, and that is as well benefiting brands and businesses coming on Snap, because the audience is very differentiated, happy. Creators succeed on Snap because when you go on Snap as a creator and influencer, you open to the camera, as you said, immediately it invites them to be themselves. Like there's this mindset of like when you open to the camera, you just start taking a picture of the moment or a video of the moment. And they tell us, I was in a Ramadan event in Ramadan, and one of the influencers or creators, Abu Zayan in Dubai, he said it perfect. He said, "Snap for me, I just open the camera and just be myself." And that's a big deal in the world we're in now, and that inspires me a lot. Back to your question.
Okay, I think going to Snap, from my understanding, like the biggest cohort of users on Snap is usually the kind of the Gen Alpha, Gen Z. So we're talking whatever, 15, 16 to maybe mid-20s. Is that true? Or
it differs.
Who's using the app? Let's talk about this part of the world.
If you talk about audiences in the GCC, it's actually across all demographics.
Okay.
In Saudi, we are, everybody uses Snap. If you're between 13 and 65, you use Snap. So we don't have that young audience. We have it here in UAE, where like the majority of our audience is between 17 and 35. So it differs, but within the GCC audience, the locals and the Qataris, the Emiratis, the Kuwaitis, the Saudis, Snap has a very, very high penetration. We have across demographics, and it's a very inspiring thing to see. When I joined Snap, I knew Snap was big here. So I went to LA for my onboarding, came back. My first trip was to Saudi, right after. And I landed at 2 a.m. There was a long queue in the airport, was so tired, and waited an hour. Got to the passport control, and the guy looks at me and he was like, "Why are you here?" I was like, "Here for work." And he's like, "What do you do?" I was like, "I work for Snapchat." That was the first time I say that word in the region. He's like, Snapchat? I was like, "Yep." And he didn't believe it. He opened Snapchat. He's like, "This?" I was like, "Yep." And he literally couldn't believe it. He stood up, took a picture with me. It was like, and he called his friend Abdurrahman at that time. I was like, "Abdurrahman, come. He works for Snap." And at that time I knew that this platform is special. And not about the numbers, by the way. It's not about like how much reach do we have, because that's a very young, very connected audience. They use everything. But when you talk Snapchat within the GCC community, it's very different. It's very integrated in their life. They like it way more than anything else.
So the most exciting thing for you at Snapchat is how engaged basically the users are on the app here.
It's how special. Again, engaged is more numbers. They are very engaged. They open the app 50 times a day in the GCC, which is really impressive. But how special it is and how positive it is. At Snap, content, so you're chatting with your friends and family, right? And you're doing this with so much fun. People we say augmented reality, but it's like those lenses and filters that we just used one in the beginning of the interview. That they use it a lot. 80% use it every day. And then you have the whole content creator success we've seen, massive. Like if you look at the Saudi creators, Snap is one of the most, if not the most preferred platform for them. They love it so much. It's their authentic dimension in content creation, and as well, it turned to a very lucrative and very profitable business for them. So when you see that, you have like thousands of creators on Snap who built a business out of nothing, and very good business there. You see it, how it's impacting people's lives. It's making people happy. And you see the contrast of unmoderated, kind of unlimited feed, makes people happy. It stays focused on friends and family. How it's impacting the economy with the creator ecosystem kind of nourishing. Not only they make money themselves, we share revenue with them. We share a lot of revenue with creators in this part of the world, and that system has a lot of things to be proud of.
So you're talking about lenses, right? And like the fun element of it. You mentioned a lot the word fun, like you're having fun with your family, with your friends, and you're connecting and so on. But I feel like with the lenses specifically, I do agree it's a lot of fun. I've used it with my kids. They're 6 and 8, and we make all these faces. We did it now, you and I. So I do agree with that. But there's also, it's like lenses have become so prolific across all the apps, to the point where even if you want to take a photo of yourself, or if you want to, I mean, you said you want to be a creator and you want to be yourself, you're so compelled to use these filters because you would look better. I mean, I've even go as far as hearing, stories where basically women would say, specifically women would say, I want to look like this filter of me. So I think, I was having a conversation with Hind before you came, and we were just talking about companies really, like, there's a war of attention happening, right? Everyone's kind of trying to get your attention, all these platforms, not only the platforms, actually, you have the Netflixes and the YouTube. I mean, everything's kind of like competing to your attention. And we were saying, like, in order to do so, all these platforms have to kind of push the boundaries, go the extra mile, filters, this, that. You talk about joy, and we were saying, like, before that, is it actually more fun to keep adding things on top, or should we kind of like strip things down back to basics?
I agree with you. Like, that conversation and that topic comes up every time we have a technological evolution or progress. It's always, we're having it on AI now, right? Like, it could be used this way, and it can open up way more venues of creativity, or it could be used to make people dumb, right? And as you said, the same applies to this topic. Like, when you see how people use lenses on Snap, they started using it as an entertainment. Like, it's not that pretty to have a dog face on your face. It's not that pretty to have a vomiting rainbow. Those are the lenses that were very popular with Snap in the beginning. And majority of the snaps, that even the ones we tried in the beginning now, people use it to actually be silly and be themselves when it comes to entertainment. And it's about what kind of environment and platform you create that empowers what kind of behavior. At Snap, you've seen Snap been very consistent, by the way, on how we do this. And you haven't seen us changing massively. We changed the kinds of lenses and the technology. We evolved it. We invested in it in billions of dollars in machine learning to make it more accurate, better. But they use, the way people use it on the platform is still to communicate visually, still to make their moments better. But the technology evolved massively just from an entertainment thing. So augmented reality that powers lenses as a technology is a computing layer that is called augmented reality. It's a computing layer that augments the reality around us. So I'm looking at you now, and imagine a world where I could add a computing layer to this thing, where me and you using phone for now, but in the future wearables, we're able to augment that relationship. We could play chess together. We could talk about a topic and have a discussion about something. So it's about how you use it. But so far, what we hear from the community is that, and when we research, people use augmented reality to make their real life richer. real life, not their virtual life, their life they just put a big thing on here and they disconnect from. And we invest in making sure it is the case. Now, you could take that same technology and apply another set of behaviors on it. It could go really wrong, and I totally agree with you. But that's the commitment of our company on how we make sure that the community is still safe, it still empowers people's lives, and it still makes them happy.
I think the platforms will be there anyway. I mean, I don't think we can go back on the platforms. They're there. They're part of our everyday lives. We use them, as you said, 50 times a day. We open the app, or more or less. It's funny, like when I said Hussein Freijeh is coming on the podcast, like I got a lot of messages from parents, you know, ask him, like, you know, what are they doing for safety? I think this is like, I think a lot of parents are concerned about this. I mean, I don't know if you saw the big hit, what do you call it? The series Adolescence. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yes, I did.
So, I mean, you're a father now, you know.
Yep.
So I think maybe 2 questions on that, and maybe we can wrap on that. But on the one hand, what do you say to parents that are concerned about basically the safety aspects of the technology? And the second question would be, what would your 15-year-old, like, what would be the reality of your 15-year-old son? Like, how do you envision it?
Yeah, that's fun thing to imagine. I think when it comes to being a parent now, and I think I get that a lot. Imagine you texted, imagine me going around, even on my social life, on my work, I have parents all over, and I get that question. I think as a parent now, with proliferation of technology and platforms, like, it's a really difficult thing to catch up on everything, and making sure that, like, it's worrying. I see it in people's eyes when they ask me, they're so concerned. So I acknowledge that concern. I think a lot of, at Snap, the way it's designed, like, think about it, like, it's designed with privacy in mind. There's, like, messages disappear. You go on the platform, most of the content that we have is moderated. So we make sure every content that has exposure to a large audience is moderated by a human being. And then we have all the set of features, like a family center. So a parent.
What's a family center?
So family center, which I encourage parents to use, is a tool at Snap that allows you to monitor where your kids are doing, just like in normal life. So you know who your kid is connected to. You could put some controls on what kind of content they see. So you kind of control as much as you can. You can't see the messages because you don't do that in real life. And that helps a lot.
So, you don't see the messages, but you see who they're talking to.
Exactly. Okay. And kids cannot change the settings that their parents put. So that has been a massive tool, and I know a lot of parents, my friends, are very happy. They will be very happy when they use it. Another tool that I think is very underutilized, I think on the device level, even before you get to a Snapchat or any other platform, there's a lot parents could do on a device level. You could accept or reject any app that your son or daughter will be downloading.
Okay.
And I think there's a lot of features being introduced on a device level, because that's the scalable way of doing it. To be able to catch up to everything that your kid is using, it's very difficult. And you always come late to that game. I think on a device level, it becomes a little bit more scalable because you capture the whole thing. You could make sure that the age is set properly on a device level. You don't know what your kid, because sometimes kids, instead of 13, they put 15 or that. So you could control that on a device level. You could control what your kid is using and how much time they're using it, etc. So a lot of times I give parents advice on device level, and they wouldn't know a lot of what the device could provide. They would be very surprised. So my advice is, educate yourself on what features your phone, the operating system, gives you, whether it's Android or iOS. And then each platform, like we have on Family Center, has its own set of protection. I think it is just something that we have to do as parents to be able to protect our children.
And what would the world look like for your 15-year-old son? Because I think at Snap, you guys are going like hands-free. I feel like there's a big investment going into the spectacles, which I think maybe you can put on, and for those who are watching on YouTube can see it. Yeah.
So that's specs. So this is a prototype. We give it to developers, and they develop. So imagine now it's an AR glass. So when I turn it on,
it's augmented reality.
Exactly. So everything I can control through my voice and the palm of my hand. So now I could see a keyboard, and I could control things on the palm of my hand. I wish I can show you what I'm seeing. And then imagine now it's an open world of creativity. We could create anything. Your kids, and by the way, it's designed to be interactive between friends. So if I give you another one now, me and you could play chess. We could discuss human anatomy, seeing a proper life-size human body there, and we could discuss the details of that. We could have a discussion. I could open it up for a call now. We could have a conference call with a common friend together. But I can still see you. I can still conversate with you, and I could still see the world around me. And that's the beauty of it. It's connected, and it's a standalone. So it doesn't depend on my phone, because that's a challenge always. We always have that phone. And the idea here, we want to free new technology from the phone and make sure it's fully independent. And the beautiful thing about this is that we are now giving it to developers to develop for it. So imagine when the smartphone came out, the major kind of use cases were created by developers when they developed for OS. Exactly the same thing. So we have a lot of exciting stuff that are coming out from developers, and it's one of the most exciting things, I think, that if you talk to Evan now, he's excited about.
Yeah, I listened to a podcast that he did recently. I think he's quite excited about the future of spectacles, and basically having the kind of the hands-free.
Yeah, I mean, think about it now in our day-to-day. While smartphone and iPhone mainly were the drivers of a major breakthrough in how we consume technology, it's becoming a limitation now. It's like it's a professional limitation, because like you're on the screen and you're just like doing this. It's a very small screen now. It's a social isolation tool now. So like imagine your kids now, instead of sitting on the couches and doing this, they're putting glasses, not as big, but like probably smaller. And they're like playing outside together and communicating together through those things. It's way better and way more open for creativity than like a small screen with people doing this there. I think that vision, combined with unlocking the creativity of developers and what could happen across entertainment, self-expression, education, health, etc., I think it becomes a very wide set of possibilities.
Well, thank you so much, Hussein, for coming here and sharing your tips on leadership, your journey, how you succeeded in the matrix, and I think it would be very interesting to see how you evolve with time, and also your journey with with fatherhood as well, and what that brings.
Thank you, Lula.
So thanks so much for coming in here, and
thank you.